What if the next Ferrari wasn't entirely Ferrari anymore? What if the soul of the red machine, once rigidly tied to its own engineering traditions, was being reprogrammed by the vision of someone who built his legacy elsewhere? That's not speculation. That's precisely what's unfolding behind closed doors in Maranello, where Lewis Hamilton isn't just a driver. He's becoming an architect of Ferrari's future. The whispers about Hamilton's influence on the 2026 car are not a metaphor. They are facts. This isn't just about adapting a car to a driver, it's about remaking a philosophy from the ground up. Since his arrival, Hamilton has gone far beyond the expected role of a new recruit. From his first meetings at Maranello, he's challenged norms that have defined the Scuderia for decades. Instead of politely navigating the existing framework, he's pressed for a complete overhaul, one that begins not just with mechanical components, but with the mindset behind them. Ferrari has always carried a certain signature: aggressive chassis setups, unpredictable braking characteristics, and instinctive design language forged to reward drivers who lean into chaos. But Hamilton has arrived with a different code entirely, one written at Mercedes, where control, balance, and long-game consistency were engineered into every corner of the car. And he's not shy about what he wants to carry over. He speaks often of a car that communicates with the driver, not in abstract poetry, but in the feel of the wheel, the bite of the brakes, the way a chassis reacts under pressure. His driving style demands predictability without dullness, speed without spite, and now, under the leadership of Loic Serra, a former Mercedes performance chief and Hamilton ally, that vision is becoming reality. Serra's influence has been immediate and deep. Since stepping into Ferrari's technical command, he's overhauled the way simulations are run, adjusted tunnel testing priorities, and begun laying the groundwork for a new kind of Ferrari DNA. A DNA built not on fire and flare, but on precision, feedback, and driver trust. One of the key focal points of this transformation is the rear suspension. Not just for this season's SF25, but as a prototype foundation for what's coming in 2026. The system Hamilton drove early in the year was, in his words, unpredictable. A machine that seemed to behave with a mind of its own, especially through fast corners and lateral load shifts. That erratic behavior sparked immediate design changes, changes Hamilton didn't just request, but directly influenced. The new suspension package aims to reduce those sudden dynamic shifts, eliminate the twitchy reactions under throttle, and stabilize the car when it matters most. It's an early glimpse into how Maranello is translating his feedback into real, tangible performance parts. But the change doesn't stop at mechanics. Hamilton is leaving fingerprints on the very way the team functions. From how simulator sessions are structured to the value assigned to driver feedback versus pure data correlation, the British champion is reshaping Ferrari's internal processes. Sources close to the garage say he's advocated for adopting elements of Mercedes' simulation protocols. Not out of nostalgia, but because they work. He's demanded that driver feeling carries as much weight as wind tunnel numbers, and in doing so, he's altered the internal power dynamics of a team long known for guarding its own ways. 2025 then is not just a racing season, it's a construction site. Every test, every debrief, every lap completed by Hamilton is part of a greater blueprint. He knows time is short, the new regulations are coming, and what's put in motion now will define how competitive Ferrari is in the new era. He's not here to be polite, he's here to leave a mark. Still, the transition hasn't been smooth. Integrating a 7-time world champion into an environment as insular and historic as Ferrari's comes with growing pains. The external narrative may be filled with optimism and hype, but inside the garage there have been tensions. Ferrari's SF25 was not built for Hamilton. Its behavior reflects years of refinement around another philosophy, one closely tied to Charles Leclerc's driving style. A driver who has learned to maximize lap time by extracting speed from the car's natural instability, using delicate balance through mid-corner to stabilize the rear and carry momentum. Hamilton's style, however, has always been about fluidity. A smoother blend of throttle and brake, prioritizing exit traction and platform stability. That fundamental disconnect made the early races of 2025 a technical nightmare. No matter how he tried to adjust the setup to his feel, the car refused to respond the way he needed. And Hamilton, never one to make excuses, admitted it openly. This wasn't a case of learning a new machine. It was two opposing philosophies clashing at speed. Yet instead of forcing the car to change, he made a rare decision. He began adapting to it, slowly, painfully, shaping his inputs to mimic Leclerc's style, not out of defeat but as a strategy. For a champion of his status, that kind of humility is rare. It's also revealing. It signals just how committed Hamilton is to making this work, not for the next race, but for the long game. But adaptation comes with consequences, not just technical, but political. As Hamilton reshaped his style to suit a car that wasn't his, Leclerc flourished. His results, his comfort in the machinery, his ability to extract performance without compromise, all of it reinforced a narrative within the team that the car still speaks Leclerc's language more fluently, and that has subtle but undeniable influence on how development choices are made, what updates are prioritized, whose feedback tips the scale. For Hamilton, used to being the gravitational center of every team he's led, this is unfamiliar terrain. He's no longer the undisputed reference. He's part of a dual axis, and at times he's the one adapting rather than directing, and yet he's not retreating. He's engaging more deeply, turning short-term sacrifices into long-term investments. Every compromise he makes in 2025 is part of a calculated bet that the car of 2026 will not only carry his influence, it will embody it. That future Ferrari is already taking shape, and the signs are everywhere. Take Loic Serra's approach, for example. It flips the traditional Ferrari development model on its head. Instead of crafting a fixed technical package and then tailoring it to the drivers, Serra began the 2026 project by asking questions. How should a car feel at the limit? What kind of steering weight builds confidence at 300 kilometers an hour? How does a driver regain trust after the rear steps out? These aren't design specs. They're sensations, and they've become the framework through which geometry, aero balance, suspension kinematics, and even material stiffness are being filtered. The car's skeleton is being written in the language of driving feel. With Hamilton and Leclerc as its co-authors, simulator sessions aren't just data logging exercises, they're philosophy labs, and out of them has emerged a vision of a Ferrari that no longer demands its drivers conform to it, but adapts to the best of both. The suspension tested recently at Mugello, the one that surprised the paddock with its composure and fluid balance, isn't just an isolated upgrade, it's a prototype limb of the 2026 chassis. A living module being tested in the real world under the SF25 skin. Every kilometer Hamilton and Leclerc run with this hybrid system is feeding the design algorithm of the next generation Ferrari. Spa, Monza, Suzuka, all these tracks will become data laboratories for the future. Ferrari is playing a bold game. By deploying early components now, they're reducing risk for next year. They're learning how these ideas survive real stress, how they interact with tire behavior, and how they influence driver confidence over race distances. This is no longer a team reacting to results. It's a team building a machine not for the present, but for the regulations that will define the next era of Formula One. And yet there's another layer to this story, one that adds tension beneath the optimism. With so much of Ferrari's new vision shaped by Hamilton's preferences, where does that leave Leclerc? He's been the face of Ferrari for years, loyal, fast, emotionally tied to the Scuderia's rise and fall. But now, in this reshaped ecosystem, he may need to adjust too. If the 2026 car tilts too far toward Hamilton's smoother, more progressive style, will Leclerc find the edge he once had eroded? And what happens inside the garage when two philosophies collide in the same machine? Can a car truly serve two masters? Or will the hybrid become something that satisfies neither, a compromise that lacks the extremes that made each driver exceptional in their own way? Formula One has seen this kind of philosophical fracture before. Think of McLaren Honda in 2015, a promised fusion of engineering legends that fell apart under the weight of incompatible cultures. That project became a case study in how mixing two elite systems without alignment leads to chaos, not innovation. Ferrari is aware of the risks, and that's why this moment is so critical. They're not just developing a car, they're building a team culture capable of absorbing and harmonizing two of the sharpest, most demanding drivers in the sport. And that means breaking old habits, even sacred ones.